Welcome to Psychology Today. I'm your host, Ann Morrow. Thank you for watching. What is psychology? It's the science of propelling oneself safely through the environment to enhance well-being. And our show is about bicycling in general and the celebration of local cyclists. We offer it monthly to try to help you find your own way onto the bicycle and to well-being. Our guest is the League and Race Director of the Oregon Interscholastic Mountain Bike League. She's working on an objective that I think many of us believe in and support, and that's helping young people discover their own inner bicyclists. And Heather Wolfgang will provide her insights and experiences in just a moment. We hope that Psychology Today helps inspire you to ride a bike and helps you to be more mindful of safety. Those of us that volunteer for Psychology Today believe there's an abundance of bicycling activity to celebrate in the Portland metro area, and we endeavor to introduce you to people who help our community of cyclists. I want to give a quick thank you to our capable crew behind the scenes, volunteers who make our show possible. So I want you to meet Heather Wolfgang now, our guest. And again, she is the League and Race Director of the Oregon Interscholastic Mountain Bike League.
It's a mouthful.
It's a tongue twister. It is a tongue twister, yeah. And so welcome, Heather, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I always like to get a little history about the guests and where you came from and that sort of thing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I guess the short version is I grew up in Florida, born and raised in Florida, and moved to San Francisco when I was 21. And yeah, I rode a bike a lot when I was in Florida, up and down the dirt road that I grew up on with my brother, and he really liked to crash me out. But that did not deter me. I kept riding, and moving to San Francisco where there were hills and stuff, I learned how to ride up mountains and hills and all of that. And yeah, when I was 23, I did a bike tour through Alaska and Western Canada.
Whoa.
With a friend and my dog. I had a trailer and had my dog in it with all my stuff. And yeah, so I've been riding for a long time. And I guess my history is, yeah, a transplant from Florida to San Francisco and then now here in Portland.
So what actually brought you to the Portland area then?
My boyfriend, now husband.
That's often the case.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, he grew up in Portland and still had family here. And so we decided to move up to Portland to be closer to family.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you glad you're here? Are you enjoying, I mean, you've been here for a while, but the Northwest? I'm
enjoying it. It's different. It's very different from Florida, and it's different from how things were in San Francisco. But yeah, it's still, I'm still kind of figuring it out.
Okay.
I'm still figuring it out. I think it takes a while for a place to feel like home.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And so you talked a little bit about your bicycle history. Any more to add on that about your bicycling? You started out with your brothers and... Yeah,
started out with my brother riding, then did the bike tour. But just a lot of recreational riding, and then I got into racing. After I finished my bike tour, I got into cyclocross racing.
Cyclocross, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did that for, 10 years, and I got into mountain bike racing, and I dabbled in road racing and track racing, so
wow.
I really wanted to experience all varieties of cycling, and which one felt kind of the best, and I love cyclocross, and mountain biking's really fun too, of course.
You are really competitive.
I don't know if that's... I don't think competitive's I think it's more just trying to figure out not even like what I'm made of, but in a way just, yeah, what does each of those disciplines kind of bring out? And what does being on a bike and lining up, like what is my goal? What does success look like from doing a race?
Do you analyze that before every race a little bit?
I used to not, and I haven't raced in a little while because now I have a kid and... I don't know if you can see this on camera.
Can't see that.
There's a child inside of me now, so I'm not racing now. But yeah, I think just trying to figure out what success looks like from any situation where you're hard on yourself or you're putting yourself out there is important.
Yeah. And what kind of riding do you enjoy then? You talked about a lot. Is there a favorite? Is there a favorite that you would choose?
I like riding that I like getting on my road bike and doing some road riding and then getting on a fire road or double track or even single track and just exploring something where I'm away from cars. And I like riding in the summer when the blackberries are out. That's so wonderful just to pull off and the blackberries are there and they're all warm. And
seems so distant right now. We're in January and like gray and...
Yeah, but soon.
So where do you think that passion comes from? You're obviously very passionate about cycling.
I think for a lot of kids, the bike is it's the independence. It's the getting away from everything maybe for the first time by yourself.
Yes.
And powered by yourself. And that's really, really special. So I think that for me, I grew up on 5.5 acres on a dirt road. And so the bike was just the way to move around and explore the land in a bigger way.
I think you're right, that's an overriding theme for people to talk about their younger years, independence. And and it kind of... So you mentioned that you are expecting. And so how has that affected your cycling, or has it?
It has. It has. You know, so this is my second kid, and with the first, I was gung-ho on still running and still riding, and there were some complications at the end of that pregnancy that I was put on some modified bed rest, so I wasn't able to do all of the things that my outlet. I wasn't able to do that, and I think with this pregnancy, I've just been easier on myself and just haven't been like, and I'm gonna run 5 miles at month 6 of like I'm just taking it easier on myself.
Good for you. But was that a little bit hard? Did you struggle with that a little bit? Because you seem very competitive, and it seems like to bring yourself back.
Yeah, but you know, when you're told that you can't do something or that you shouldn't do something for the health of yourself and your unborn child, and you've been so active, it's really hard, but you get it. And I think because I was already used to that, and I just think that this is a time where I can give myself a little bit of grace. And I will go back to, like, I'm so excited to get back to riding, and the weather will be nicer in a few months too.
Yes, when you're ready to be out there.
That's right.
Good.
Yeah.
That's something to look forward to.
Very much so.
Well, that's great. So you are the League and Race Director for the Oregon Interscholastic Mountain Bike League. There, I got it out. So tell us, how did you get involved with this organization, and what do you do for them?
So I've been involved with it's actually Oregon Interscholastic Cycling League. I know you have mountain biking, and that's what we do. And some people ask, they're like, do you do road or any of that? And we say no, and it should be mountain biking because that or off-road or something. But the Oregon Interscholastic Cycling League is one of 28 leagues under a national organization called NICA, which stands for the National Interscholastic Cycling Association.
Okay.
And I've been involved with NICA's programming since I lived in San Francisco. I was invited to help out with the local San Francisco composite team, and it was all high schoolers, and I didn't like high school so much. It was very hard. Probably not easy for anybody, but I just really didn't enjoy it. And so I had this vision that riding with high school, I was like, they're going to judge me. I'm not
I know, you go back. Like you're still in high school.
Yes,
no.
And I didn't want to, but I said yes, because I love bikes. So I went and I rode with this team, and it was so much fun. And I just wanted to keep going back to see the kids and their progression. The kids, young adults, and their progression. And next thing you know, I'm getting certified to be a NICA coach and work with the team like legitimately and going to races. And then I started volunteering with the NorCal Cycling League in Northern California. So I volunteered, and then I was on the board for a while with them, and then I became an employee. And then the Oregon League was on the table to get involved with. And so there was an opportunity for me to step in and support it, and eventually that turned into me being the league director.
Wow.
For it. Yeah.
And you're enjoying it?
Yeah, it's like one of those dream jobs, you know. It's like I get to create events for kids and their families.
Yeah.
Where kids get to ride, but also their family. Like everybody gets to be involved as much as they want to, and that's really cool.
Yeah. And you see progression, you see the results, the fruits of your labor, so to speak.
That's right.
That's a real positive. So what is the Interscholastic part of the name of your organization?
So that's the schools.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so pretty all of our teams right now are composite teams. So that's, I mean, you can have a composite team or a school-based team, and leagues as they mature will have more school-based teams, but our teams are all composite right now. And that means that kids from a bunch of different schools, or homeschool, private, charter, doesn't matter. They can all be on the same team together. But yeah, we do middle and high school student athletes.
So is it kind of like club soccer or something where it's just a community kind of a thing? But maybe do the schools actually get involved with this?
Some do, but not really. Yeah. Right now it's all outside of schools. All of our coach licensing stuff is outside of any school requirements. We have our own rule book and stuff. We're completely outside of schools.
It seems like that could be an advantage and disadvantage, but do you see it one way or the other? Or do you even see any advantages of having the schools involved?
I think the advantage of having the schools involved is that you can have the support from the schools, and the idea is to have composite school teams get those school-based teams, or composite teams get to the school-based teams, so that it's in the school and there's a higher chance of those teams continuing on. It's not just the volunteer mom and dad, there. It's teacher and faculty at the school who are involved. So it's a little bit more rooted into their communities.
Do you see bicycling becoming a school kind of activity? I mean, way down the line. Do you think that's a feasible idea? I mean, even going into college kind of thing, just like the other sports?
Totally.
I mean, it seems like a good thing to do, to build on.
Yeah, I think that's the big picture for NICA too. Is I remember years ago hearing the story about what if mountain biking is just like football? What if it's like exactly the same, where this is just what it is. It's people go to races and they're on the mountain bike team, and it's kind of like a normal thing.
Right.
I think we're getting to that point too as
cheerleaders.
No. That's right. Yeah, those are the parents usually.
I'm sorry, I work in a high school, so I go to the.
Yeah, but it's So I definitely see it as being what's the word? I guess just normal, like as a normal sport, where people aren't like, oh, you're in a mountain biking team, that's cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, we accepted soccer, so surely we can accept bicycling.
I would hope so.
I don't think
hope so.
So how did this league get started?
This league was started by a group of people before I moved to Oregon, and my understanding is that all the folks that were interested in launching the Oregon League because it's a long process to get a bid together to give to NICA, and them to look at it, and then to interview and question and make sure that everything is looking good, to then say, okay, out of all the bids we've received throughout the country, you are one of 3 or 2 or whatever that we're going to say, come on in and train up and everything. So it had been a long process, and by the time the bid was accepted, people had changes in their lives and jobs and stuff like that. So there was enough effort to say, okay, yeah, the bid's accepted, and for people in Oregon to say, awesome, like, we're doing it. But yeah, there wasn't somebody to say, like, 100% yes, I'm the person, and it's going to happen.
Take it and run.
Yeah, and so NICA knew me through the NorCal League, and they also knew my husband because he worked at NICA, and he was on the, we just go
really
back.
A family affair.
Yeah. So they gave us a call and said, hey, would you be interested in helping support the Oregon League? And I said, absolutely. So nice. I came in as kind of a support, but I didn't have a job lined up, and I had the time for it, and I knew from my experience with the NorCal League and just with NICA in general, that the vision, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such an exciting opportunity to get to help launch this in Oregon.
Yes.
That is so cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yet probably a little overwhelming, huh?
A little bit. Because I didn't know Oregon. I didn't know venues that we could have races at, and there was some information in the bid, but it wasn't all. After I had seen some places, it was like, well, that's a little too weather dependent, or there's not enough parking here, kind of. As I started seeing what was outlined, I knew that because I had seen, like the NorCal League when I was with them had, I think, 1,200 student athletes, and they just did high school, and we're doing middle and high school, and so I already knew based on how many people will someday start to be at these races that these places wouldn't work. So yeah, I didn't know many people here, so it was just, you know, Google stalking people and emailing them honestly and just being like, hey, I'm new here and, you know, I'm doing this thing and this is what it's about and it's legit, it's totally going to happen and it's real. And and then the rest is history.
So you mentioned that this is middle school and high school. Is that, how do you reach out to your target market then? How do these people, how do the kids know that you even exist to come join you?
I think it's the parents. It's the parents that know, because they're the ones, you know, this is more, I think, on their radar.
Okay.
I've had a couple of students reach out to me about starting teams, and it's awesome when that happens. But yeah, the first year, my husband and I did what's called the dirt tour. So we stopped, I think we did 13 of them in like January and February. It was like every weekend just going around the state, all the way down to Klamath Falls and over to Bend and, you know, Astoria and Newport, and just kind of doing our little thing about this is what it is and this is how you start a team and this is what's involved and this is what race weekends look like. So we did that, and that was our first year. We had 103 students registered, which was like pretty good for not knowing anybody here. And then yeah, the year after that, I said, you know, we're not going to do any dirt. Like, let's just let this grow organically, because people who are involved with this, it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And those teams that were established grew a little bit more, and we added some more teams on. And that year we had 235 student athletes. And then, gosh, yeah, man, time flies, doesn't it? Yeah, and so it's just like organically grown. And so as far as like how do we promote or reach out, this is something that's word of mouth at this point. And I'm sure people are finding out about it because NICA's pretty big and the Oregon League has been around for a while. But yeah, that's how it's working.
And that sounds a lot more manageable. I mean, certainly you're growing, it seems like plenty. And so you can kind of keep it contained.
That's right.
If you had like an influx of 500 people, you might, you know, that'd be a lot of struggle.
Yeah, and I guess it goes into the quality over quantity thing. And I know off screen we were talking about this earlier, but just how do you maintain your culture?
Yes.
And if you have such big growth, your culture is at, it could, I guess, arguably your culture could be at risk. It's at risk. And even at the slow growth that we're having, that's something that we have to constantly defend, and this is how we do things, and this is who we are, and so how do you do that if you double from 400 to 800? It's a little bit trickier.
Yeah, definitely. So it just sounds good to me. What benefits do you see young people deriving from this activity, from the bike racing?
From the bike racing, or being involved with the Oregon
involved with
League?
the league, yeah.
They're connecting with other kids. I think that one of the best things about this program is that we really get kids, I don't want to say that don't fit into other sports. We have a lot of athletic students who join the Oregon League coming from other sports and all of that, but we get a lot of students who haven't done any of that. And this is kind of their thing. This is, they know they like riding mountain bikes, and maybe they did it by themselves and now they're riding with other people, they're making friends. And I think especially in those transitional, like those transformative years of middle and high school where it's just so weird. It's like you don't, like, you know, do you fit in? You're a little self-conscious. There's all this stuff. When you're on a mountain biking team, at least what I've seen is the kids can just be them, like really 100% be themselves. And there's no, you scored this many points or you didn't, or you were benched or you didn't make the team because you weren't good enough. It's like everybody gets to do it. And I think that acceptance is really, really powerful for students of the age that we're working with.
Yeah, that sounds really great. And what do you offer young people that ride but don't know anything about racing? Is that, do you get absolute novices?
Yes. Yeah. What is the stat? So the stat is, there's a couple, I think only 10% of NICA student athletes throughout the country, only 10% have ever raced.
Okay.
And 74% have never even ridden on dirt. So we are definitely getting more kids on bikes out in nature. I would say more kids on bikes on dirt.
Yeah, on dirt.
Yeah. And so what do they get out of it? Hopefully they're getting out a lot of, again, just kind of defining what success looks like for them. And if it's just finishing one lap and not having to walk a section, great. If it's getting to that section and walking it and feeling like, and making that decision and feeling really good with it, great. Like, I think that's, there's a lot that can be gained from from lining up at a start line and pinning a number on, and going through the nerves and what it evokes and questioning, what is this? Like, what's going on inside of me?
Yeah, and that would spread across their entire life.
That's right.
I don't know. I grew up with, well, not grew up, but the empowerment.
Yes.
And it does. It just gives you confidence that if, hey, I did that, I can do this.
That's right. Yeah, and our teams are co-ed, and I think that that's a really cool thing too, that that everybody gets to ride the same trails, and our races, the courses are the same for all of the students.
Wonderful. Now, your website states that the organization believes that riding bikes in nature provides people of all ages the opportunity to find their truest selves. And that's kind of what we're touching on here. And I really like that. That's really, I don't know, that really caught my eye. So why don't you expand a little bit on that philosophy, that you're helping people of all ages find their truest selves out in nature on a bike.
On a bike, yeah. Well, there's a couple of things going on. It's like, okay, so you're on the bike, and we just talked a little bit about that. What is in a mountain biking, especially where you're riding, doesn't have to be technical, but you can take it to a very technical level if you want. So what's going on internally with you on the bike, with your mental state and physically, how that's all feeling. And then I think that you're in nature and you are nature. And so there's the more that I just know that the more that humans connect with nature, the more they're connecting with themselves, because we are nature and we are in nature, and nature is in us. And so it just, to me, it's like this really beautiful blend of being out and smelling everything and seeing everything and seeing things throughout the seasons and riding a trail and just seeing how everything is changing throughout the year. And then also how you're changing, being on the bike, and that the confidence that you gain, and like you were saying, if I can do it there, I can do it here, and applying that to other areas off the bike.
Yeah. Nice. I don't think I'd ever seen an organization kind of get that philosophical on their website before, and it just really struck me. How has the pandemic affected the league?
Well, in 2020, we like most of the world, we didn't do much. We did do a couple skills clinics, and they were small, it was limited in size, and it was all outdoors. And I thought that we'd be able to do some time trial events, but it just didn't feel right for a few reasons. It just didn't feel right to do it.
Yeah.
And last year we had our races, and the requirement was in the staging area and in the finish area and the pit zone, which is where all the team tents are and stuff, that wear a mask. You know, and for racers or for riders who are about to race, they can take their mask off 30 seconds before the race starts. So they didn't have to wear a mask while they were racing.
Yeah.
But we do have middle school riders who weren't able to get vaccinated, and so it's, you know, looking at all of that, because at that point, if you're vaccinated and everything, like, it's fine.
Yes.
I know there's debate about that now with everything, but at that time, if we were only doing high school, it might have been a little bit different, but it just felt like an easy enough ask, and we're all used to it at this point too, to just do it. But if you're off by yourself somewhere cheering for your son or daughter, your kid, like, that's great. You don't have to wear a mask.
Right.
That's totally fine.
And did you have pretty good compliance with that?
We did. Yeah, I didn't have any pushback. And I've heard from other league directors who, I think going into the spring league, into the spring season, so they're going to be having races soon, that that there was a little bit of pushback on that. And it's, you know, it's like, well, if you don't want to do it, don't come.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
So another thing that your code, and I'm kind of skipping ahead here, you talk about integrity And you talked about, you know, the whole culture of your organization and all that. How does integrity, why is that an issue in your organization? Why do you push that? How does that play out in the league?
How does integrity play out in the league? Well, I guess the definition of it, what's your definition of integrity?
Oh, God. You can't put the host on the spot.
I did it.
Nobody's ever done that before. You know, I mean, just honesty and fair play, I guess, I think, in a sport like you're talking about.
Yeah, and getting in some like moral values and stuff too, which is going into the honesty component. Yeah, it's, I don't think we've really had an issue with it because that's in our core, like that's in our culture is, you know, this is how we do things here, and we don't cut course, and we don't put people down. You know, all of that stuff is not okay. And I know something else that's part of our code is leave a place better than you found it. You know, pick up trash and stuff like that. And I mean, of course, if you're out on a mountain bike ride and you're not going to pick up all the trash that you see necessarily, but if you stop for something and you see something on the ground, you know, pick it up and make a place a little bit cleaner than how you entered it. And what we've done at races, at a number of our race venues, is take 10 minutes and anybody who's just in an area to walk a certain amount of space and just pick up as much stuff as they can find on the ground.
Nice.
And so it seems, maybe it kind of seems a little silly, or it seems very like not a big deal, but there's something about like, right, this is like we take care of the land, like we enjoy it so much, we have to give back a little bit and just like kind of clean up a little bit for this one little zone.
Yeah, every little bit helps. Yeah. That is really awesome. Well, we're going to go to a little safety video now. And then I'm going to ask our guest to actually make a little comment on the video. I usually do that part, but I'm going to ask her to do that, putting her on the spot because, you know, it's kind of like what she's talking about. So after that, we'll come back and we'll talk to Heather some more about the culture of the organization and some of the things that they do. So let's go to a safety video.
Bike safe, bike smart. Hi, my name is Xander.
And my name's Elizabeth.
Over the next few minutes, we're going to have some fun and talk about some pretty important stuff.
Some of it you've heard before, but it never hurts to hear it again.
And again.
And again. So here we go. Did you know that just falling off your bike is enough to get a serious brain injury? So play it safe. Wear your helmet every time you ride. It can reduce the risk of head injury by up to 85%.
And that's a lot. The helmet should be snug on your head and sit flat. The strap should form a V under your ear, and the chin strap should also be snug. 2 fingers should fit in between your eyebrow and your helmet.
Also, make sure your helmet meets safety standards. Look for a sticker that says CPSC. This stands for the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
All the stuff we talked about today is common sense.
But you still need to think. Be courteous, and be predictable by always riding in a straight line.
Wear a helmet. And follow the rules of the road. Ride with traffic on the right side of the road. Ride single file.
Obey traffic lights and traffic signs. Check behind you before turning. Use proper hand signals.
Stop, look left, right, then left again before entering a street. And use caution at an intersection.
Make eye contact with other drivers. Be careful around parked cars. And watch for objects in your path.
And at night, be seen to be safe.
Never assume that motorists or pedestrians will see you. Remember, bikes are smaller than cars, and if there's a crash between the two, any guesses who will win?
That's all the time we have. So remember these 4 words. Bike safe, bike smart.
Okay, welcome back to Psychology Today. So I'm going to ask Heather what comments she might have about the safety video.
Did that kid's helmet light up? I think I need that. First off, I need that helmet. And second off, all really good points. I'm glad that they talked about making eye contact with other people on the road, because I think that any communication that you can give and have among other people using the space is really, really, really important. And regardless of how good of a cyclist you are and how capable you are and predictable and everything, people sometimes just won't see you. And so the more you can do to make yourself visible, whether that's wearing bright stuff or just the hand signals and all of that, and kind of assuming too that people don't see you and acting out of that kind of mentality too is
good. Yeah,
it's good.
Good insights. Yeah, they are. They're kind of old, but that's still the same old good common sense. So, well, thank you, Heather. We'll get back to you in just a minute. So I just want to encourage all of you to, I like to take this opportunity to encourage cyclists to keep riding in the winter and spring, even if the weather may not seem so ideal. There are clubs and meetup groups that have rides all year. So if you pick your day and watch the weather, you can probably get in quite a bit of riding without getting too wet and cold. And usually snow and ice does cancel rides because it's not safe. It's slippery and people can fall. So you should watch calendars and things. So think about what you want to do on your bike in 2022. Do you want to use your bicycle more for transportation? Do you want to participate more in some of the local fun events like Pedal Palooza or Sunday Parkways or Bridge Pedal? Maybe you want to get out into the rural areas a little more and explore by bike. How about a camping trip and you take your bicycle and you check out the scenery on your bike instead of driving around? Maybe you want to ride your bike from Seattle to Portland in 1 or 2 days. Or how about a week-long bike trip like Cycle Oregon? So you can set some goals and start making your way towards them. And even though it's January as we're airing this show, it's not too soon to get thinking about that. Maybe some of the things that you need to do is just get more fit so that the engine that you use to move the bike, your body, will do what you want it to do. That really makes for a much more comfortable ride, whatever it is. And maybe you just need to get a little more gear to enable you to be comfortable. And there are a lot of experienced cyclists out there. You just need to ask at bike shops or in the clubs or whatever, people that can help you with your questions. So let's go ahead and finish up our conversation with Heather Wolfgang of Oregon Interscholastic Cycling League.
Yes, you got it.
And so let's see. So first of all, I wanted to focus on some of the specific activities of the league. And you mentioned earlier you have camps and clinics for riders. So what are those like, camps and clinics?
Yeah, the camps that we've done in the past, well, we've only done one, and that was the bike packing camp, and that was awesome. And that was in 2019, so then of course in 2020 that was not going to happen. But yeah, so that was the camp that we did, and I intend to kick that back into gear for 2023. This summer we'll look at some routes and figure out some other places that we can host some bike packing camps. The skills clinic camps that we've done have been day camps, and those are where students come out. We have a group of 15 to 20 riders, and we just start to work with them on just progression on how to feel more comfortable on the bike. How can you really be with the bike instead of that's
yes.
right, one with the bike instead of like you're sitting on the seat and you've got your hands on the handlebars and you steer it like this, and it's like how can you actually move with the bike and feel really comfortable, which then will lend to feeling really confident on the bike and less risk and all of that comes with it. So those are the camps and clinics that we've done in the past.
And then you have races. You talked about races, and tell us a little bit about those.
We have races. We have races, and we did 4 races for our first couple of years, and now we're doing 5 races. The 5th one is our state champs race. Very exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, our races are weekend-long events. So our league is big enough now that we have a North Conference and a South Conference. So teams are, divvied up into one or the other, and then the North Conference or the South Conference will race on Saturday, and then the other conference will race on Sunday. And they're full-day events. We start racing at, I think our first race goes off at like 9. I think it's at 9, might be 8. Like it's like it just happened, and yet it seems so far away. But yeah, and then our races wrap up around 2:30, and we have a podium award and all of that. But people come out and they stay for the whole day because teams are there supporting each other, and they're so much fun.
And would it compare to adult mountain bike racing then, but it just happens to be kids?
I think the difference is that our courses are loops. So, and adult mountain bike racing is loops too for the most part. I don't think there's a ton of point to point, except for like kind of bigger, longer races. But it's anywhere from 3 to 5 mile loop, and so people are spectating along the way, and we have middle schoolers go in the first wave, and then we have all of the girls go in the second wave, and then high school boys go in the third wave. So it's a little bit different in the staging and process of, it just seems like there's more spectators, and we have like an area for feed zone, so if riders need water bottles, they can get that, or if they need to drop a jacket or something, they can put it in that area. So it's similar, but it's different. I would say it's even like bigger because the whole family is typically there to watch and cheer.
And you have a Leaders Summit?
We have a Leaders Summit, and the Leaders Summit is where adults who want to get involved with teams and be coaches, or you can be a team director and just help facilitate a lot of logistics on the back end of things, like ordering jerseys. I mean, it can be as complex as you want it to be, really, but the Leaders Summit is where adults come to get kind of the full download on this is what NICA is, this is what the Oregon League is, and this is kind of the nuts and bolts, how to work with student athletes, risk management, coach licensing certification processes.
Sounds very organized, and that sounds really helpful for an adult getting involved to get all that information.
Yeah, NICA has been around for 10 or 11 years now, maybe going on 12. And through the process of just having so many leagues involved, there's a lot of resources out there that have been in development with NICA to get everything together so that people who want to get involved know exactly what's expected of them.
Because sometimes there isn't that communication. And when you're coming into something, you're kind of at a loss, and you're starting from ground zero again. And so to start with something like that would be a big boost. And then you have GRIT, G-R-I-T, Girls Riding Together.
Yes, that was a program that launched with NICA, I think 4 years ago now, and the whole goal is just to get female participation up. And that's not just student athletes, but that's also the coaches. Because the more adults that we have in those coach roles as mentors, then I think it makes sense that the more girls would want to join a team if they see that kind of leadership.
And I think, like all other things, just feeling accepted, feeling like this is something I'm welcome to do, not like you're the Lone Ranger out there.
But yeah, sometimes there are teams that only have a couple of girls on it, and so if it becomes more norm that there are, half of the coaches are male, half are female, like, awesome. And then I think you'll just get more girls that feel comfortable joining a team if there's more female leadership.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So, looking at your website, I read some of the kind of, information about your enthusiastic staff. I mean, they sound really exceptional. So tell us a little bit about them.
So I made up all those bios. I know them well enough, and nobody has disputed them. Because if you ask somebody for a bio, you might, Yeah. So I've worked.
It could
with
be
them.
a little dry.
Yeah, I've worked with them enough to know their strengths and a little bit of their backstory. And we have maybe like 12, 13 race crew staff that they're volunteers, and they are just amazing and so committed to helping with anything that I need with these race events.
And traveling all over with you to make this all happen and get it all set up, and
Yeah.
it's like a big event every weekend then. I mean,
Every other weekend.
every other weekend.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about the porta potties and just all the logistics of having all those people and the stuff and some place to ride and some place to park. And
That's right. Yeah, there's all of the race logistics for the student athletes and their families, and then there's the logistics too for all of the race crew. So what are we eating? Where are we staying?
yeah, yeah.
all of that, those details. But yeah, the crew comes from, we've got people down Grants Pass and as far north as Bellingham. One of our race crew members moved from Portland to Bellingham, and he came out to all of our races this past season. And we have another race crew member in Seattle, a guy that I knew from the NorCal League who was a student with the NorCal League and then was on the race crew, and that's how we met, was through working on the race crew. And now he's in Seattle, and he says anytime I ask him if he can help out with a camp or a race or anything, he says yes. He says that he just wants to give back because it means so much to him, and it meant so much to him when he was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really says a lot right there.
Yeah. Yeah,
That-
we're very lucky to have him. He's great.
So tell us a little bit, we had our safety video, tell us a little bit about the safety elements for your riders. What kind of equipment do you suggest that the young riders have, like bikes and tools and things like that? And how do you ensure that the bike that they come with is safe?
That's a really good question. So the bike safety is what the coaches are having to work with. So when students come to practice, seeing if the bike, I mean, I doubt every practice they're going to go through everybody's bike, but at the same time, just having extra supplies on them as coaches, because let's be real, not everybody's always prepared, even though you ask them to, whether that be supplies to fix a bike or food and water and stuff like that.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as supplies that I would recommend, I'd say just a good working mountain bike. It can be a 26-inch wheel, it can be a 29, it doesn't matter. As long as the brakes work and things work and it feels good to be on, it feels like the right size, it is the right size. That's first and foremost. And then a helmet, of course. Don't want to, you only get one brain, okay? It's very fragile, so protect it. Then having flat repair kit and just kind of the basics for, I mean, you're probably going to get a flat. You are going to get a flat.
You are going to get a flat at some point.
It's just a matter of time of when. So having a flat repair kit and knowing how to use it. Maybe going to a local bike shop for very basic bike maintenance skills, or working with your coaches on your team to learn how to fix a flat will be very, very important. And yeah, having food on you so you don't bonk. Bonking's no fun. So having enough food, having enough water, just being prepared for a little bit longer than you think you might need to be prepared for.
I would imagine that bonking thing is kind of quite a lesson for them to learn. I mean, you know, to hit the wall like that, and
yeah, for all of us to learn.
All of us, it's been a lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too what's interesting with going back to races and what that provides students is it's really hard to eat before a race, but it's really hard to race if you haven't eaten. Or it's hard to ride if you haven't eaten. And so how do you figure out how to get through the nerves and eat something? So yeah, bonking and just nutrition in general, and how are you fueling your body?
Yeah, exactly. Because you're right. And some people, I can't eat before I ride a bike. Well, and you're right. Yeah, everybody has to kind of figure out what works for them.
Yeah.
Whether it's oatmeal or pancakes or, you know, we're all different.
Yep.
So let's talk about your 5 core principles, because that's really your core you're talking about. So the top, fun is one of your core principles.
Yeah, if you're not having fun, what are you doing? How can you not have fun on a bike? I know how you can't have fun on a bike, and that's if you're riding something that you don't feel equipped for. You know, either your bike's not good enough, or your mental, you know, you don't have the skills, or you don't think you have the skills to handle something. But we just want it to be fun. We want students who are involved in our program to be lifelong cyclists, and they're not going to do that if they're not having fun. Nobody's going to keep doing anything if they're not having fun. Right. Eventually, something's going to crack.
Yeah. So you help them, like you're saying, maybe the first few rides are not that fun because like you just said. So you help them work through that to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's a really good point too, is some kids, like, racing is not fun. It's just not fun. And so it's, okay, well, what component of it is not fun? How can we redefine what the race is for you? It's not, are you going to be the fastest rider out here? Are you going to be in the top 10? Or it's okay if you're last. Somebody has to be last. It's totally fine to be last. And so can you just have fun doing it? You're going to have a number on you. You're going to line up with a bunch of other riders your age, but just have fun. Like, really just have fun.
Yeah. That's, you know, and that carries through forever.
Yeah, hopefully.
Inclusivity, that's part of your core.
Yeah, we want everybody on bikes. We want everybody on bikes. I don't think there's much more to say about that. We want everybody on bikes. Yeah.
That's just it. Everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and I know you're probably going to get into the equity.
Yes,
part
that's
of
next.
This. That's the next one.
Let's talk about equity and inclusivity together.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to share that the Oregon League does offer scholarship, and we never turn anybody away, and we will help out as many families as we can, because we really do. We don't want our season fee to ever be cause for not joining what we're doing. And I know that teams have helped riders get bikes through working with their community, because we all know people who have bikes in their garage that they're not using, or they're getting rid of, they just upgraded, and so what are they going to do with their old bike? And so consider donating that to a local team, because there's chances are there's a kid who could use it, or maybe while there's a repair being done to a bike, there can be another bike that somebody can use.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was important to put out there too, that people may have this idea that it's mountain biking and it's expensive, and it can be, but we're really about really having fun, having stuff that works, and it doesn't have to be all the bells and whistles. Just
it's not an elite thing.
It's not an elite thing. Yeah.
That's great. And respect. Respect for, you talked about how teams encourage one another, and
yeah, respect for other people, respect for the land.
Yeah,
I think just respect in general for all the living things.
And last is community.
Yep. Yeah. So community that's, I don't know. It's like, if you don't have community, then what? And I think that we get to get families together on these race weekends that would never have met otherwise, and that community just starts to grow and grow. And I know of riders who live in Salem and who met somebody down in Klamath Falls, and they're hanging out now. Like, their families are hanging out, and they're riding together. And so having that kind of community, anybody in the bike world who's been in the bike world for long enough hopefully has felt that.
Yes.
And has had that community, and to know, your group rides or whatever, you just know when you go to these certain events that you're going to see the same people, and there's something really that just feels, that's home. That's a really good thing.
Yes, very nice. So what is your vision for the league at this point? I know that you've got personal things going on, and maybe that's kind of taken the back burner, but when you're back on your feet, what do you see yourself trying to do in the league?
Oh man.
Or are you happy with kind of the motion it's in? It's got a good momentum, and
I think it's got a good momentum right now, and I'm of the mindset that I don't think that things need to get very complicated. I don't think that we need to keep adding a bunch of stuff just because we've been around for longer, that we need to have more offerings. I think that if we can keep things simple and really quality, and we really know like what we're doing and how to do them, that's important to me, is just to keep it simple. But that doesn't mean that I don't dream big. Like, I definitely dream big, and I think about different kinds of camps and things that we can do, but I think over time those things will come to fruition at the right time. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have a really good foundation, and the old, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so, this is who you are. Who you are seems to be really great. So why, like you're saying, just kind of let it percolate and do what it's going to do.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I would add to that is that the races have been such the marquee event for NICA. The races are, that's what people know us for, and I know there are a lot of riders who don't really care about the racing. They get a little something out of it. They like to go with their teams. They do it, and it's fine. But being a cyclist isn't always just racing or ever just racing. Like, what does it mean to be a cyclist, and what other avenues can you give young people to see, right, yeah, bike packing, bike touring, just how can you get people out and just doing more adventurous kind of things that's not timed event at this place on this date. Those are the things that I'm thinking of in the future that I want to expand on some more. But you're right too, like right now, things are good. Things are really good, but I know that I want to expand a little bit more on the adventure component.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that, I think I see that fitting in with your own life too, with little ones.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
So if you had I like to ask guests this question. If you had a magic wand and time and money wasn't an impediment, what would you change in the Portland Metro cycling community? What would you do to improve cycling?
Can we get some trails in this place or what? Can we just get a little bit of Forest Park? Like, just a little bit of it is so big. Can we just get like a little bit? We'll take care of it. We'll do the trail work. Like, can we get some legit, I know there's some bike riding in the parks in Portland. I know. But if you're a mountain biker or if you just like riding on dirt, they're not very compelling. It's not something that you're going to just... I mean, in San Francisco, and I don't want to be like California, but in other areas, even big towns, there are areas for people to go ride bikes and like just go out for an hour and a half or 2 hours and just have fun. And so it doesn't have to be anything big with jumps and all this development. It can be pretty simple, but we just need some dang trails in Portland. We really do. I mean, I still don't really understand. I mean, I do. I know a little bit of the backstory, but why we have not had more success with getting trails for cyclists in Portland.
So Forest Park is what? One of the biggest parks?
The biggest.
The biggest.
In the country.
In the country, okay.
Yeah.
And so so there's some trails there that people walk on and ride their bikes at all different levels. And you're saying it's a huge expansive area. Could we have a little bit of space for some legitimate mountain biking that maybe would be exclusive to mountain bikers?
I think
for safety.
Yeah,
you wouldn't
that'd be
want
great.
the person walking their dog on the trail where you're.
Yeah, it'd be great if it were exclusive. It doesn't have to be. I think if people knew that an area was a space that mountain bikers and cyclists were often riding in. But there's fire roads that cyclists can ride in Forest Park, and that's just not, I mean, nobody wants to even hike. It's like, fire roads, like the fire lanes are just very steep up and down. It's not very compelling. It's just, it's like a wide road. It's not fun single track, that you're kind of like ribbons through the forest. It's just a very different vibe. So there's not very much flow to it. And then you've got Saltzman, you've got Leif Erikson, and so again, it's nice, but it's like wide fire road style. It's not the single track. So if I had a magic wand, we'd have some pretty awesome single track in Portland.
Is there someplace else other than Forest Park or the magic wand you could develop some new areas? But I mean, Forest Park definitely stands out as an option.
The biggest.
Now, what about Gateway Green? Is that someplace off the I-205 there?
Gateway Green's a great resource to go and spend some time working on stuff. There's a little bit of single track there. There's like skills progression stuff, and that definitely has its place. But for me personally, I don't want to go work on skills all the time. I want to go ride my bike and just be in the flow with it. And I know that that's why people drive out to Sandy Ridge to go ride at Sandy, or go to Stubb Stewart to ride at Stubb, or go into Hood River. And that's why people are driving outside of Portland to go mountain bike.
Okay. And I'm not a mountain biker, so I'm asking these questions because I really don't know what your point of view is. So that's really interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about that. Okay. Just kind of, we've got a few minutes here. How would you encourage parents? I mean, you talked about your league has scholarships and things like that, but how do you encourage parents to facilitate getting their kids into cycling, but they just don't know where to start? It's a big jump. It seems like bicycling would be a little more complicated to get your child into than, say, soccer, because you some cleats, a ball, you're good to go.
Yeah, just 2 feet running on grass or indoors. So is your question how to get them into cycling specifically?
And how to encourage parents to help facilitate their kids to join, to get into the league, to get into bicycling. Yeah.
Well, to get into cycling or to getting into league, or so are you asking like to get them on a bike or to get them into the league?
Into the league.
Get them into the league. I know it helps to have a friend who's involved in something to kind of open up that door a little bit.
Yeah.
To, like, oh, my friend's on this thing and they're enjoying it. So that might help is if you're a family and you know that you have a student who really loves riding and they have a friend who really likes riding too, maybe talking with that other family and seeing, hey, maybe we should see if our kids would like to do this together on this team. Aside from that, I mean, I think I don't know how parents navigate those kinds of...
It just seems like a little more complex than...
Yeah.
And two, it's a little more out of the ordinary. So as a parent, we might not know as much about it.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm thinking too, I had 2 boys. I have 2 boys. One of them was really team sport guy, soccer, baseball. The other one did not like that kind of stuff, and he found that he liked snowboarding and bicycling. So, just finding that personality maybe in your child, that they don't like that, the traditional baseball, soccer stuff, and maybe bicycling would be an avenue of fun for them.
Yeah, I think if there's already a desire to get on for riding, that's its own, like, okay, cool, that's already there. I'm having a hard time answering this question only because I think it just depends on the kid and depends on the parents, and do the parents have the resources maybe to drive their kid to practices and to drive to these races and
there's
stuff.
Carpooling and stuff too.
Yeah, there is.
Well, thank you, Heather. This has really been informative about your organization, and I didn't know it was happening, and I really hope that it grows in our community. It really sounds like something that is really advantageous for a lot of people. So good for you. I'm really impressed by all your enthusiasm.
Well, thanks for having me. It's fun I really love talking about this
stuff. I can tell. I use that word
Yeah.
passion, and you definitely got it in spades.
Yeah.
So thank you, viewers, for watching, and I hope that this educated you too about the Oregon Interscholastic Cycling League. And so again, meeting guests like Heather is just really uplifting, because we meet these wonderful people that are in our community that we don't maybe even know about, that are working really hard to improve the quality of life in our community, and in this instance a lot for children. So the common thread is bicycling. And we do have YouTube archives with our past guests, and those may be of interest. So come out and ride, and I hope that 2022 is a good year of cycling for you. Thanks for joining us.